Welcome to the video on nomenclature for amine. Before we get started, I want to tell you the difference between a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary amine. A primary amine is a nitrogen that has one R group attached and two hydrogens. A secondary has two R groups and one hydrogen, and a tertiary has three R groups. This is very similar to how we name carbons as primary, secondary, and tertiary. So we needed to establish the primary, secondary, and tertiary before we started naming amines. So for primary amines, it's very simple. We name the alkyl group that's attached to the nitrogen, followed by the YL, and then replace the suffix with amine. So this right here is an ethyl group, and so this is ethylamine. Here is an isopropyl group, so this is isopropylamine. Here is a cyclohexane group, and so this is cyclohexylamine. It can get more complicated if your primary amine is off of the main chain. And so in this case, we replace the E from the alkane and make it amine. And so if we were going to name the compound shown down here at the bottom of the page, the first thing we would do is highlight our main chain. So our main chain is 7 long, and that means that our root or our parent name is going to be heptaneamine. But we do have to talk about the fact that we have a methyl group off of carbon 4 and a methyl group off of carbon 6, and we also have to indicate where the amine is connected. So maybe pause the video and see if you can figure out how to name this, and I'll give you 2 other little hints. This carbon right here is a stereocenter, and this carbon right here is a stereocenter. So this is going to be heptaneamine, and we have the amine is at carbon 2, so it's 2-heptaneamine, and then we have a 4,6-dimethyl, 2-heptaneamine, but in the front of the molecule, we have to indicate R and S for center 2 and for center 4. So center 2, our highest priority is the nitrogen, so that's 1. Our second highest priority is this big alkyl group, and our third is the methyl group. And what's left off here is the hydrogen, so you want to draw that in. Hydrogen's in the back, so we're all good. So this is going to be R. So it's 2R. The chirality center at carbon 4, our highest priority is going to be, so off of the second carbon, we have a nitrogen, so that makes this one the highest priority. Then the second would be the isobutyl group here, that'd be the second priority. And then the third priority is the methyl group. Now remember, the hydrogen is coming at you. That wasn't drawn in, so the hydrogen is coming at you. So that means whatever I determine the stereocenter, I flip it. And so this is 1, 2, 3. So that would be S. But in fact, this center is R because we have to flip it. So this is 2R, 4R, 4,6-dimethyl, 2-heptaneamine. Whew, I'm tired just doing that for you. So there is our final answer. If our amine group happens to be a substituent, then we're going to use the term amino to describe that. For example, this molecule right here, the highest priority is the alcohol. So the ending, the suffix of this one is going to have to be, if we highlight our longest carbon chain, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons. So this is going to be butane, but all, and it's 1-butanol. And then we also have to indicate that we have an amino group on carbon 4. So this would be 4-amino, 1-butanol. And we have not learned how to name benzene substituents yet. If we just take what we know and name it, this compound right here is called benzoic acid. And on carbon number 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 4-amino. 4-amino benzoic acid is that one. And then we will learn when we learn the benzene chapter that if you just have the amine on the benzene ring like that, that has a parent name of aniline. We'll see there's a lot of common names when we do benzene. So at this point, you won't be responsible for this piece, but just know that benzene with an amine is called aniline. Okay. So now the little bit challenging part. When we name an amine that has more than one substituent off of the nitrogen, so that means if we have a secondary or a tertiary amine, we end up having to identify what's coming off of the amine, similar to what we would do when we were naming substituents coming off of carbons on our main chain. When you are naming secondary and tertiary amines, the first thing we have to do is find, of the substituents that are off the nitrogen, find the longest one. So the longest carbon chain there is propane. Propanamine is our parent name. And so now we have a substituent which is a methyl group off of the nitrogen, and we have a substituent which is an ethyl group off of the nitrogen. So we're going to take the ethyl group first because that is alphabetically first, and then we're going to name the methyl group. And so the way we do that is we're going to say N-ethyl N-methyl propanamine. So rather than indicating the number of carbon that our substituent is, we call it N, meaning that that substituent is coming off of the nitrogen. So in this case, again, you find the longest parent chain, and then you name the amine that way. And then you look at the two additional substituents off of the nitrogen and you name them alphabetically. So the proper name for this one is N-ethyl N-methyl propanamine. And this should just be one word. I'm sorry, I left so much room. This one right here has a common name, which is just diethylamine. And this also has a common name, which is trimethylamine. And so if we look at the bottom one down here, which will be more like what we would have on the exam, our longest carbon chain is this 6 carbon chain. So we're going to have a parent name of hexane, and off of carbon 3 is our amine. So this is going to be 3-hexanamine. And then our substituents off of the nitrogen are ethyl and methyl. And then we also have substituents off of our carbon, which is off of carbon 2. So we have chloro, ethyl, and methyl. So we have to put that in alphabetical order. So if we pull that all together, oops, I forgot. We have a stereocenter there, so we'd have to name that as well. 2,2-dichloro, N-ethyl, N-methyl, 3-hexanamine. And if we double check and make sure that that's right in terms of the stereochemistry, our highest priority is 1, the nitrogen. Our second highest priority is 2 over here because those chlorines come off of that first carbon. And then our third priority is over here. We have to draw the hydrogen in, and the hydrogen is going back. So we are good. And so this is 1, 2, 3. And so that is in fact S. Nomenclature of amines is very similar to everything that we've learned, but it's also a little bit more challenging because we have to remember we use that N when we have a secondary and or a tertiary amine that we're naming. Okay, good luck.